Shabbat Shalom!
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
We're so happy to see all of you here today as we celebrate Shabbat as a community, but of course as we bring Samwell to the Torah as a bar mitzvah. We are going to begin this morning in our Siddur on page 185 if you're following along in the book or if you're following along on the slides. Just a few notes. If you are here and you are not part of the Jewish faith, first of all, welcome. We're happy to have you. Second of all, if you hear certain words during the service that you don't know, like Adonai, words like that, they just mean God. They're names of God, and there is no part of our service that somebody who is of a different faith tradition could not participate in saying with us. So please feel free to participate fully and be a part of this moment with us. I'd also like to remind all of you that we would like to put all cell phones away. We don't need to take photos during this, and that if you have not yet turned your phone on silent, I invite you to do so. We'll join together on page 185. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Moving to page 186 for the words of Modeh, Moda Ani, as we express our gratitude for our souls being restored into our body. On the next page, we find the words from Psalm 133, Hine Matov, how good and wonderful and joyful it is to be together as one big community, celebrating this amazing day.
Hine Matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Page 192, we find the words of Ma Tovu, words that come directly from our Torah, words that are all about entering our sacred sanctuary space. And even when it is a temporary sanctuary, we are grateful to be together and be able to pray together. We find the words of Asher Yatzar on the next page, words all about being grateful for our bodies working. Even when they're not working perfectly, we're grateful that they work well enough for us to be here in this moment. We'll join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chokhmah, uvara vo nekavim nekavim, chalulim chalulim, galui v'yadua lifnei chisei chavodecha, she'im yipateach echad mehem, o yisatem echad mehem, אי-אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. ברוך אתה Adonai, רופא כל בשר ומפליא לעשות. And on the next page, Elohai Neshama, gratitude continues with gratitude for our soul.
Elohai Neshama shenatata pi taharahi, ata peratata yitzarta, ata הפכת בי, ואתה משמרה בקרבי. כל זמן שהנשמה בקרבי, מודה אני לפניך, אדוני אלוהי ואלוהי אבותי, מודה אני לפניך, אדוני אלוהי ואלוהי ואמותי. ריבון כל המעשים, אדון כל הנשמות, ברוך אתה אדוני, אשר בידו נפש כל חי, ורוח כל בשר איש.
We turn to page 198 as we continue with the blessings for daily miracles on the even-numbered pages. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan maseh vivina, lehavhin ben yom uven laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokea hivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, roka haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamehin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanotein laya'ef koah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavir sheinai meinai, unumame afapai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'esani b'tselem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'esani ben horin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'esani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozer Israel bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Oter Israel bitifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Page 205. From the cowardice that shrinks from new truth, from the laziness that is content with half-truths, from the arrogance that thinks it knows all truth, O God of truth, deliver us. Blessed is Adonai, teacher of Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. And in fulfillment of that blessing, we turn to page 206 for Elu Devarim, a passage from Mishnah Torah. Elu devarim she'ein lahem shiur, she'adam ochel perotehem ba'olam hazeh, v'hakeren kayemet lo le'olam haba, ve'elu hein, kibud avaim ugemilut chasadim, v'hashkamat beit hamidrash shacharit ve'aharvit, v'hachnasat orchim uvikur choholim, v'hachnasat kala uvayat hamet v'iyun tefila, v'havaat shalom ben adam lechavero, v'talmud Torah keneged kulam. We'll move forward now to page 218 as we find the words of Psalm 150, the final psalm in all of the book of Psalms. This psalm speaks to the many different ways that we can offer our praise with all of our different instruments, and most especially with our very own voice and breath. On page 224, Chatzi Kaddish, as we move now into the next section of our service.
Yitkataha v'yitkataha shemei Rabba Ve'amad yivrach yurtei v'yamlich machutei V'chayechonim yimeichonim v'chayetecho beit Yisrael Ba'agalah v'izman kariv V'himeru Amen Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach Le'olam olam me'omahaya Yitzbarach, Yitzbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitzbahar v'yitramam v'yitnasehi, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekodesha b'richu, le'ila min kol berachata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nachemata, tameran me'ama, v'himeru, Amen.
Please rise for the call to prayer on page 226. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. We continue on page 228. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvorei hoshe osei shalom uvorei et hakol. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha barahamim uvtuvo mehadesh behol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'aseha Adonai kulam behoma asita mal'ah ha'aretz kinyaneha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadeha ve'al meorei or she'asita, yifa'aruha selah, or hadash al Zion ta'ir, v'niskeh hulanu mehira le'oro, baruch atah Adonai yotzer ha'meorot. We continue on page 231. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said, and light blinded we saw, that inner and outer worlds are one, as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back, and climbed again. Your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai, haboher be'amo Israel be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Baruch Shem Kevod Malhuto Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. We continue with the Haftarah on page 234. We'll chant the first paragraph and then turn to page 236 for the conclusion. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anohi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levaneha v'dibarta bam B'shifteha b'veiteha, uvleteha v'derech, u'shofbeha uvkumeha, u'kshartam le'ot ayadeha, v'hayu letotafot b'neineha, uftatam al muzuzot beiteha, u'vishareha. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, Daber el bnei Yisrael, ve'amarta alehem, ve'asu lahem tzitzit, al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam, ve'natenu al tzitzit hakanaf betil tehelet, ve'haya lahem letzitzit uritem oto, ushartem et kol mitzvot Adonai vasitem otam velo taturu ahare livavhem ve'ahare einehem asher atem zonim aharehem leman tiskeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vehitem kedoshim lelohehem Ani Adonai Elohehem Asher Hodseiti Etem Meretz Mitzrayim Lehiot Lahem Lelohim Ani Adonai Elohehem. We continue on page 241. The good in us will win over all the wickedness, over all the wrongs we have done. We will look back at the pages of written history and be amazed, and then we will laugh and sing, and the good that is in us, children in their cradles, will have won. Our hearts beat with certainty that there is a day and an hour and a mountain called Zion, and that all of the sufferings will gather there and become song, ringing out in every corner of the earth, from end to end. And the nations will hear it, and like the caravans in the desert will all to that morning throng. Please join in singing Mi Hamoha on page 240. Habai limadonai mi kamo hane darba kodesh nora tehiloto sefele nora tehiloto sefele shihira hadasha shibihu gulim leshim ha'al sefatayam yahad kulam hodu Vehim lihu ve'ameru Adonai yilo le'olam va'ed Adonai yilo le'olam va'ed
Tzur Yisrael, kum ha'bezrat Yisrael, uvtechinu mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael. Go haleinu Adonai tzavot shemo, kedosh Yisrael, baruch atah Adonai, gal Yisrael.
Please rise as we turn to page 242 for the amidah continuing on the even-numbered pages. Adonai sifatai tifta ufia gitehilateha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzhak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rahel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanorah El Elyon Gomel Hasadim Tovim Vekonei HaKol Vizoher Hasdei Avovi Mahod Umevi Gula Livnei V'nehem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Hozer Umashia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah Atagi Bor Le'olam Adonai Mehaye HaKol Atarav Le'oshia Morid Hatal Mehalkel Haim Behesed Mehaye HaKol Berahamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofe Holim Umatir Asurim Umekayim emunato lishene afar mihamo habal gevurot umido mechla melech memit umehaye umat mia yeshua vene eman ata lechachayot hakol baruch ata Adonai Mehaye hakol. Nekadesh eshimha ba'olam Keshem shemati shimo Tobish me marom Kakatu vayad nevieha Vikara ze'el ve'amar Kadosh, kadosh, kadosh Adonai Tzevaot Melo Hol Haaretz Kivodo Adir Adirenu Adonai Adonenu Ma'adir Shimha Behol Haaretz Baruch Kivod Adonai Mimkomo Ehad Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu Vehu Yashmienu Berahamav Le'enei Kol Hai Ani Adonai Elohehem Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohai Yitzion Ledor Vador Hallelujah Ledor Vador Nagid God Leha Ulanetza Netzahim Kedushata Nagdish V'shivhaha Eloheinu Mipinu Lo Yamosh Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
We'll take a few moments now for our own quiet and silent prayers. When your prayers are completed, please feel free to take a seat. So today is more than just Shabbat, and it is more than Samwell's bar mitzvah. It is also Rosh Chodesh Elul, which, as I mentioned to our Tat Shabbat this morning, it is a terrifying month for Sarah and me. It is the month right before the High Holy Days begin, so we're fine.
We're fine.
We're great.
We're great.
But when we have a new month in the Hebrew calendar, we are very excited and celebratory, usually unless it's the month of Elul. But in the month of Elul, it's a time of introspection and reflection and an opportunity to really review the year from the past and start the process of cheshbon hanefesh, of accounting for your soul. But in the meantime, before we really get kicked off with Elul, we get to celebrate that. And so we do that with Hallel, which, if you're following along in your Siddur, is found on page 560. We will do a couple of psalms of praise to be excited and celebrate Hallel, and then we'll continue with our service. On page 560, we find the words of blessing to enter into Hallel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu ligro et ha'halel. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to sing hymns of praise.
All right, so this will bring us back to our Pesach table. There's a little repeat after me part that comes. If you know, please sing and sing loud. I don't mind. Please sing it out. Here we go. B'tzeit Yisrael mi Mitzrayim, Beit Yaakov me'am lo'ez. B'tzeit Yisrael mi Mitzrayim, Beit Yaakov me'am lo'ez. Hayta Yehuda lekodsho, Yisrael mamlotav. Hayam rav ayanos, hayarden yisov leachor. Harim rakdu chelim, givahot kivnei tzon. So repeat after me. Malach hayam, kitanus, hayarden, tisov leachor, harim, tirkadu chelim, givahot, kivnei tzon, milifnei aton, chuli aretz, milifnei, Eloha Yaakov, hahofchi chatzor, agamayim, halamish, lamainomayim. Yashar koach, that was beautiful.
Yeah, you did great.
Yes, beautiful. Pitzchuli. Pitzchu li, sharei tzedek, avo vam odeya. Pitzchu li, sharei tzedek, avo vam odeya. Pitzchu li, sharei tzedek, avo vam odeya. Pitzchuli, sharei tzedek, avo vam odeya. Pitzchuli, sharei tzedek, avo vam odeya.
Now we will continue with Seder Kriyat HaTorah, our service for reading from the Torah. We will continue on page 363, and as you are coming to that page, it's my pleasure to invite Samwell's family to come forward, his mom and dad and brother and sister, to join us on the bima as we continue reading together on page 363. Happy is the one who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding, for its value is greater than silver, its yield than fine gold. It is more precious than rubies. No treasure can match it. Please rise.
In this scroll that is coming out of the ark right now is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
Okay.
It's our first time.
And we did practice twice. Okay. On this day, when our son becomes a bar mitzvah, we come here supported by the love of friends and family, people of many faiths. Join in prayer to thank you, O God, for the many blessings you have bestowed upon us, especially the blessing of having you, Samwell, as our son. As he takes this step into adulthood, we ask you, God, that Samwell may always have enough happiness to keep him joyful, enough trials to keep him strong, enough hope to keep him happy, enough failure to keep him humble, enough success to keep him eager, enough friends to give him comfort, enough outrage to make him seek justice, and enough faith to always keep him grounded. After all these things are his, we pray that you, God, watch over him on this special day and every day.
Now you don't. May the teachings of our heritage guide him throughout life. May you be a faithful Jew searching for wisdom and truth, working for justice and peace. Amen.
Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadol Adonai Iti. ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. לך אדוני הגדולה, הגבורה, התפארת, והנצח וההוד. כי כה בשמיים ובארץ, כי כה בשמיים ובארץ. לך
Please be seated. So this morning, as we read from Parshat Re'eh, which is found in the book of Deuteronomy, it is a continuation of Moses' extremely long monologue, which I'm not going to do to y'all today. But Samwell is going to be reading from the very beginning, which begins in chapter 11, verse 26. If you would like to follow along with the Chumash, Our wonderful past president, Laura Corman, is standing right there at the cart. You are welcome to go get one. And if you do follow along in that, it is found on page 1259, 1259. I think that's up there too. Nice. So for our first aliyah this morning, it's my pleasure to invite forward a lot of your family. Samwell, you have a lot of family here. So we're inviting forward, is it Justina or Justina? Justina, John, Dan, Tony, Maritza, Antonio, Juan, Maria, Margarita. I assume you all know who you are. Ya'amdu, Dan Yaakov, Ben Meir, Yehudit, Eliza, Ruth, Bat Dan, Justina, La'aliyah HaTorah.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Amen. Ray. Anohi. Noten lifnehem hayom. Baraha uklala. Et habraha asher. Tishmeu. El mitzvot Adonai Elohehem. Asher anohi. Mitzavethem hayom. V'haklala. Imlo tishmeu. El mitzvot Adonai Elohehem, Bezartem min haderech, Asher nohi, mitzavethem hayom, lalehet, ahare, Elohim aharim, Asher lo yiratem.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Thank you all very much. For all of the grandparents and aunts and uncles, you guys can move to the other side of the lectern if there's room. We'll see. And for our second aliyah, it's my honor to invite Edward and Maria Amelia to come forward. Ya'amdu Meir ben Dan v'Justina la'aliyah haTorah.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Amen. V'haya ki v'yaha Adonai Elohecha el ha'aretz asher ata v'shama l'rishta v'natata et habraha al har gerizim ve'et haglala al har eval Elohema be'ever hayarden ahare derech mevo hashemesh be'eretz hakanani hayoshev ba'arava mu hagilgal etzel elonei moreh Ki atem overim et hayarden lavo lareshet et haaretz asher Adonai Elohehem noten lahem v'rishtem ota vishartem ba ushmarten la'asot et kol hahukim ve'et hamishpatin asher anohi noten lifnehem hayom.
Yashar koach.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. So all of those who were here for the first aliyah, you are welcome to take your seats back down in the congregation. You can also give Samwell hugs or kisses if you really want, if he's willing to accept it. A great job works too. Pat on the back. And now, Samwell, this is the moment where I get to call you formally and officially, with all the pomp and circumstance, to the Torah as a bar mitzvah before you do your first blessing. Ya'amod, 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 habachur, habar mitzvah, Shmuel ben Meir.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Ele hahukim v'hamishpatim. Asher tishberun la'asot. Ba'aretz asher natan Adonai Elohei avoteha leha lerishta kol hayamim asher atem hayim ohadama abed te'abedun et kol hamekomot asher abdusham hagoyim asher atem yoreshim otam et Elohehem al harim haramim ve'al hagevaot v'tahat kol eitz ranan v'nitatztem et mizbehotam v'shibartem et matzevotam v'asherehem tisrefun ba'esh upsilei Elohehem tigadeun v'ibatem et shemam min hamakom hahu.
Yasher koach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata b'Eloheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Samwell, you can go breathe for a minute. So we are, as I said, in an interesting Shabbat because it is Rosh Chodesh, which means that we have a special reading that we're supposed to do. And if you ever wondered why a synagogue has more than one Torah scroll, it's for this very reason, so that when you have a special reading, you can get a different scroll to find it. Because this morning, as we read from Deuteronomy, the Rosh Chodesh reading will come from the parasha known as Pinchas, which is actually in the book of Numbers. So rather than sit here and scroll through, we're just going to get the other Torah ready for our maftir, which is the last final reading. So it's a tradition here at Congregation Beth Israel to have our maftir read by a member of our community. And so it's my honor to invite Sarah Block to come forward as our Torah reader, and an even bigger honor, because he's feeling nervous about it, I guess, to invite Mike C. to come forward as our aliyah. Ya'amod Michael ben Avraham V'Sara la'aliyah haTorah. Did I talk enough to make this work?
You did.
Perfect.
Beautiful job.
Baruch atah Adonai Adonai v'hamarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher Baruch banan mikolam v'natan lanu Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Uvayom HaShabbat Shnei Kavasim B'nei Shana Tamimim Ushanei Esronim. So let Mincha Belulav Hashemen V'nizko Olat Shabbat B'Shabbato Al Olat HaTamid V'nizka Uvarashei chodshechem takrivu ola la'Adonai parim b'nei vakar shanayim ba'ayil echad kevasim b'nei shana shiva tamimim ushelosha esronim. So let mincha Belulav Bashemen Lapar Ha'echad Ushanei Esronim. So let Mincha Belulav Bashemen La'ayil Ha'echad Va'isaro Aharon Isaron. So let mincha belulav vashemen lakebes ha'echad. Ola reach nichoach ishe la'Adonai. V'niskehem chatzi hahin yihye lapar ushelishit hahin la'ayil urvihit hahin la'keves yayin dot Olat Chodesh b'chodsho l'chodshei hashana u'sa'ir izim echad l'chatat la'Adonai alolat hatamid ye'aseh v'nisko.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kanatan lanu Torah demet, v'kei olam nata b'didinu. Baruch atah Adonai notenu Torah.
Amen. Yasher koach. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Mike.
Beautiful job.
Mike's also a past president, so, you know,
We're heavy
got a
on
lot
the
of past presidents today.
today.
It's good stuff. So in addition to our Torah reading, we also read a Haftarah, which is a book it's one of the book of prophets that we have this supplemental reading. And because it is Rosh Chodesh, we will read from the book of Isaiah for this special Rosh Chodesh reading. It is all about the new moon and what it means to have a new moon, and Isaiah is going to tell us all about it through the voice of Samwell. It's going to be beginning in chapter 66, verses 12 and 13, and then he's going to skip forward to verse 23. It's found on page 1493, 1493, not to be confused with 1492.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar binvim tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek. Ki ho amar Adonai hineni note eleha kenahar shalom uchnahal shotef kivod goyim v'nachtem al tzad tinaseu ve'al birkaim tisha'u ve'ka'ish asher imo tenahamenu Kain anohi anahem hem uvirushalayim tenuhamu v'haya midei hodesh behodsho umidei Shabbat b'Shabbato yavo hobasar lehishtahavot lefanai amar Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el hane'eman ha'omer ve'oseh hamdaber umkayim shehol devarav emet v'tzedek al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanevi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnuha lehavod ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modin la umvarahim ota yitbarashim ha befi kol hai tamid leolam va'ed baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
This morning, I read from the book of Deuteronomy, which is a lengthy speech from Moses. He was reviewing and recapping everything that the Israelites did before that moment so that he could teach the people from his experience. Parashat Re'eh continues Moses' speech. In the portion, Moses is telling the people that they should follow the rules of kashrut. Kashrut, or kosher, is a set of rules that tell the Israelites what they can and cannot eat. This includes not eating anything with blood, only eating meat killed in a specific way, and not eating shellfish. There are a lot more rules than just these. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. If the people follow these dietary rules, they will be blessed, but if they don't, they will be cursed. Moses also mentions that the Israelites are the chosen people and talks about the significance of being chosen. I, as you can tell, am not kosher. In fact, one of my favorite foods is lobster, but that doesn't mean I don't agree with the core beliefs of keeping kosher. Kashrut is really just about mindfulness. It's about thinking about the animals you kill and making sure they die a peaceful death. This is why they slaughter the animals in a specific way. They make it as painless as possible, taking the fact that the animals are living beings and can feel pain into account. Still pretty brutal though. But that's not the point. Mindfulness is about thinking more intentionally about the type of food we eat and not just grabbing anything and eating it. Mindfulness is a very, very important thing. It benefits everyone around you. It benefits you because thinking that your choices have consequences can keep you from unintentionally harming others. It helps others because, well, you don't harm them. It can also make people feel safer and more comfortable around you. Being mindful doesn't have to be a big gesture. It can be as simple as recycling instead of throwing things in the trash, or as difficult as listening to a pubescent teenage boy sing for an hour and a half. Either way, they both benefit your community in a positive way. A good example of being mindful was actually in the preparation for my bar mitzvah, with the completion of my community service hours. I helped supply food for people experiencing homelessness, cleaned a park by picking up trash, cleaned up my school, and did training to become a counselor at a camp, even though I didn't end up working there in the end. But we don't talk about the last one. Throughout the hours of community service that I completed, I learned a lot. It made me think about how good I have it and how I have to use my resources to help those in need. It made me start thinking about others more often. It also helped me notice others' kind gestures more and appreciate them. For example, all of the rules my parents have in our house: eating healthy foods, screen time limits, going to bed early, or as Rabbi Levy puts it, the annoying things in your life. Though these rules can be annoying, my parents put these rules and others in place because they are being mindful and caring for us. They are trying to help us live good and healthy lives. I think things like this are what Judaism really represents. Judaism isn't just about following kashrut or the Torah. Judaism is about caring and being mindful for your community and people around you. I'd like to give a special thanks to my family, my friends, and the congregation for making all this possible. As Sharon Salzberg once said, mindfulness isn't difficult. We just have to remember to do it. So I hope that today and every day, we all try a little harder to make a conscious effort to be mindful. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Yeah.
Samwell, take a big deep breath. It's over for a minute. Now you just get to sit here and listen to me talk. We are so very proud of you. You stood on this bima and led us in beautiful tefillah this morning. You read Torah with absolute perfection. You read Haftarah with perfection. You read all of these things better than I ever do, so great job. And you gave us so much to think about from your Torah portion. I know that when we sat down to talk about this portion, there is so much that's going on in it. There's the rules of kashrut, which are extensive. There's the conversation around the calendar. There's the beginning that's all about blessings and curses. And you wanted to talk about kashrut knowing that this is something that you don't do in your own life. That you are like, what is kosher? I don't know. You asked me, what is kosher? And I was like, well, that's a big question. But you picked something that was something you could literally chew on. You're welcome. You're welcome for that. The dads in the congregation are really laughing. You picked something that you could think about a little bit more deeply. Because on the surface, as you said, kashrut is about what you can and cannot eat. It's pretty simple. But it is about more than that. And we talked about what it means to be mindful about your food, but beyond that, as you shared so beautifully in your Dvar Torah. And I know that for most students who are your age, the idea of being mindful about anything is beyond. I see a lot of your friends here. I'd be curious, how many of you guys, I'm looking at this row back here, how many of you guys are ever really mindful in any of the things that you do? Yep, that's what I thought. Good work, good work. None of you raised your hand. That was perfect, thank you. It's hard to be thoughtful about what you're doing. And as you said, that's what Torah is trying to teach us, that it's not just about looking at these rules and just, okay, we're gonna make it work and we're gonna go with it. It's about putting thought into what we do. And that's what you did for your bar mitzvah. It would have been enough. You know that word dayenu? Do you remember that word? It's a song. Good. That's what we call Jewish right there. Yes, it's from Seder. Excellent. It's a song that we sing during the Passover Seder, and it means it would have been enough. Like, it would have been enough if we just did this, but then this. So, dayenu, it would have been enough if you had come up here and led the prayers that you learned with Ellen, and if you had written your Dvar Torah because your parents made you come and sit in my office, and you had just done what you were supposed to do. But you went beyond. You brought to this morning a lot of kavanah. The word means intention. You brought so much feeling and heart to what you did today. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to become a rabbi, but I'm thinking you could become a rabbi one day. He's looking at me like, absolutely not. But it's the idea of taking what we're doing in our life and going further and going beyond. And with this Torah portion, it's quite simple to look at it and see it as just the surface. One of the things I talked about last night in my Dvar Torah about this portion was this whole section that was devoted to loans and loan forgiveness, which I connected to what is obviously going on in the world. But there's a whole section after that that's all about helping the needy. It's all about what it means to open your hand and to give to others who don't have. And you talked about doing that with your service hours. But you said more than just the basic give because you can open your hand. Again, dayenu, it would have been enough if you just cleaned up that park. Or dayenu, it would have been enough if you just helped to feed those who are impacted by homelessness. Or dayenu, it would have been enough if you learned how to be a camp counselor that you ended up not being, but we don't talk about it. You did all of those things. And you are somebody who I know will continue to do all of those things. It's an inspiration to all of us about what it means to truly exist in this world. That, as the Torah portion says, it's not just about giving to somebody, it's about making your hand open. And there's no limitation on that. There's no amount that it says that you must do. It says you do what you can. And for those of us who can do more, we do. And it's about giving no matter what. In Judaism, there is a tradition that when you are giving tzedakah, which is what the word that we would most often describe as charity, when you're giving tzedakah, even the poorest amongst us are supposed to give tzedakah. And that, to me, teaches a lesson that as human beings, we're all in this together. We're here in this world, and as Torah teaches and as you taught us this morning, it's about what we can do for everybody, how we can help the community, how we can help the people that we exist with. And at the end of the day, that's what we're supposed to do. At the end of the day, being there for other humans is the biggest and most important lesson that we can take from everything that we do. I know for a fact, because I've spent time with you and because I know your wonderful family, that that's the kind of person that you are, that that's what you're going to do. And I hope that all of your friends who are here this morning learned from you. You guys learned, right? The girls are shaking their heads. The boys are going. It's all about what we can do to help one another. It's about being there for others. And so I feel that this morning, a day that was filled with blessings for you and for all of us who are here to witness this beautiful moment as you were called to the Torah as a bar mitzvah. As Sarah Abner said to you before this is just the beginning. This is a continuation of your life going forward and the Jewish life that you have and what you will continue to do in this world as a human being. So I want to thank you for sharing this bima with us. It has been a true honor and privilege to be with you, to learn from you, and to be inspired by you. And I think all of us here can appreciate that as well. And so on a day that we talked about blessings and curses, because that's what this Torah portion starts with, I want to bring you and your parents back up onto this bima so we can offer you more words of blessing, these ancient words that come directly from Torah. And I'd like to invite the rest of the congregation to please rise as we do so. Stand like in the middle. Get together like you like each other. There you go. And these words that have been passed down from generation to generation, you join this shalshelet hakabbalah, this chain of tradition, as we offer these words to you this morning.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Yahir Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's light shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yisach Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's countenance always be lifted to you, giving you health, happiness, wholeness, and peace. As together we say, Amen.
Amen.
And we'll remain standing as we turn now to Aleinu, which is found on the inside back cover of your siddur or on the slide ahead.
Aleinu l'shapeach adon hakol, latit gdula liyotzeh bereshit, shehu asanu k'shamrei hadama, v'hu samanu k'shlichei haTorah, shehu sam halkeinu itam, v'kar aleinu im kol ha'olam, v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. V'nehemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yiheh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. At this time in our service, we take a moment to pause and remember those who we've lost in recent days, as well as those whose yahrzeits are commemorated on this Shabbat. In the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of remembrance, we call to mind Lori Epstein, extended family member of Lee Gross, Judith Richardson, grandmother of Kimberly and Casey Steinman, mother of Tammy Steinman, Mabel May Francis Walther, grandmother of Eli Walther, Julian Friedman, uncle of my husband David and great uncle of Esri and Poppy, David Smith, father of Eric, father-in-law of Patty, grandfather of Rachel, Rebecca, and Zachary, Patty Cohen, wife of Michael, mother of Ethan and Hannah, mother-in-law of Kristen, Dave Adair, brother of Margie Holscher. As well, we call to mind those whose yahrzeits, the anniversary of their death, which are commemorated on this Shabbat. Beatrice Metz Edelman, Lil Askenaz, Celia Jean Bergman, Joseph J. Blumenthal, Rebecca Blumenson, Dorothy Burke, Louis Kaplan, Teal Cohen, Miriam Kaufman Darholt, Adelaida Lala de la Fuente, Andor Deutsch, Sylvia Feldman, Goldie Finkel, Zelda Finkel, Leopold Martin Frank, Carolyn Gabler, Mariette Joy Gessinger, Jean Glazer, Robert Grief, Saul Gross, Sylvia Jacobson, Celine Keeper, Evelyn Levitt, George Levitt, Nanny Michelson London, Emily Lubin, Esther Mandelbaum, Catherine Muntz, Kenneth Ordway, Thomas Parr, Benjamin Perrell, Max Perlman, Elizabeth Pinto, Sam Rosenfield, Betty Ross, Jaime Samuelson, Sadie Frost Schmidt, Gertrude Schwartz, Ethel Siegel, Peggy Blumenthal Scheffler, Marvin Schwiff, Dora Silberstein, Edwin Smith, Abraham Soffer, Betsy Stewart. As we hold those names in our hearts, we turn to Kaddish on page 598. I once again invite those who are able to please rise as we join together in Kaddish Yatom. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudisha brichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories be a blessing, as together we say, amen. Please be seated. It's my honor to invite forward Laura Corman, our immediate past president, to join us on the bima to present Samwell with some gifts on behalf of the congregation and community.
Oh, I always get in trouble because I never want to use a microphone. Samwell, there's a whole bunch of gifts in here, and what I always say is you're the gift. These are presents, but you're the gift to the congregation. And I listened to you when you did your Dvar Torah and you spoke about your parents, and I thought one of the gifts they've given you is the gift of service. It's not just the gift of mindfulness, it's the gift of service to the congregation. And your father, I don't know if you know this, was on the search committee that helped us choose Rabbi Levy. That is a huge gift to our congregation. You too joined that line of service. Thank you from the board, and these are your nifty gifts, which you can look at later. But thank you, and to your parents, thank you for raising such a mensch. Yasher Koach.
You can give it to him. I also want to take a moment to say thank you to Dr. Mamie Fong for being here to provide beautiful music, to help Samwell find his key, all those things. And thank you to our tech team, to Paige and Melissa, who you guys are rocking it, all the things. Thank you to Sarah Block for being our maftir this morning, and to Mike C. for being our aliyah. And of course, thank you to all of you for joining us this morning on a day that has been full of blessings. Speaking of blessings,
please join in the singing of Shehecheanu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Shabbat
Shalom, everyone.
All right, you can